Separation of Madalsa. The newlywed couple had hardly spent few months together when King Shatrujit once again instructed Ritudhwaj to travel across the entire earth and see whether the Brahmins were performing their religious duties without any obstacles. Ritudhwaj obeyed the dictates of his father. He used to scale vast distances for the whole day and returned to his wife only at night. One day he noticed that a sage was staying at the bank of river Yamuna. He was in fact Toketu, the younger brother of Patalketu. But the prince could not recognize him. That sage approached Ritudhwaj and requested him to extend his protection over his hermitage, as he was about to start yajnas. He also begged for the precious necklace of the prince on the pretext that he had nothing to pay as dakshina. The gullible prince gave his necklace to the sage. Then instructing the prince to guard the hermitage and promising to return soon, the sage left. In fact, the sage, who was actually a demon, arrived in the court of King Shatrujit. Madalsa was also present in the court. He said, "Prince Ritudhwaj sacrificed his life fighting with the demon while protecting my hermitage. Before his death, he gave me his necklace. His horse has been captured by the demon. I have brought this necklace to you to inform you about that sad incident." After giving the necklace to Madalsa, the demon returned to the hermitage. Hearing the news of her husband's death, Madalsa also gave up her life. Mourning soon enveloped the entire palace. Seeing the death of his daughter-in-law, Madalsa, King Shatrujit was in a dilemma as for whose death should he mourn. A little contemplation led him to the conclusion that it would be futile to mourn his son Ritudhwaj's death because he had died for a noble cause. But his daughter-in-law had followed the steps of her husband, so her death should be mourned for. The queen also supported the king. Thereafter the king performed the last rites of both of them. When Toketu returned to his hermitage, he found Ritudhwaj still standing alert. In a sweet tone, Toketu said, "I am obliged by you, O prince. Staying here with unwavering mind, you have executed my desired task. I have met my objective, so you may go now." Prince Ritudhwaj then returned to his palace riding his horse. Madalsa is reborn. When Prince Ritudhwaj reached the capital, everyone expressed his pleasure with surprise. Ritudhwaj met everyone happily and went to the palace of his parents. Though the king and the queen blessed him, but sad expression on their face surprised the prince. Upon enquiry, the king related the entire incident and also how his wife Madalsa had died. The news of Madalsa's death shocked Ritudhwaj. Then, consoled by his parents and friends, Prince Ritudhwaj carried out the necessary consecrations to pacify the soul of his dead wife. He had decided never to marry again. The sons of the Nag said, "O father, now Prince Ritudhwaj lives like an ascetic. He never casts his eyes on women and only indulges in playing with people of his age. Hence all we can do for him is to keep him happy." Hearing the entire tale, Nagraj fell in deep thought. After some time he said to his sons with a laughter, "O sons, now I will do such a thing that will bring back the smile of Ritudhwaj." Saying this, Nagraj Ashwatar reached Plakshavetran, a place of pilgrimage at the foothills of Himalayas, along with his brother Kambal. There they began to do severe penance to please goddess Saraswati. At last, Saraswati appeared before them and asked them to seek a boon. Ashwatar requested her to bless both of them with a sweet and melodious voice. After granting them this boon, goddess Saraswati disappeared. By her blessings, Ashwatar and his brother, Kambal became famous singers. Then they began worshipping Lord Shiva, singing sweet and melodious hymns. Pleased by their prayers, Lord Shankar also asked them to seek a boon. At that Ashwatar said, "O Lord, I wish that Ritudhwaj's wife Madalsa takes birth as my daughter." Lord Shankar said, "With my blessings, your wish shall come true. During the Shraddha period, you yourself take the middle portion of the pind, food offered to dead ancestors, and contemplating on me, offer oblations to your ancestors. Madalsa will emerge from your middlehood." Bowing before Lord Shiva thereafter, both the brothers returned to their kingdom in Patal Loka. Ashwatar organized a Shraddha in the same way as told by the Lord and consumed the middle portion of the food offered to the ancestors. Then contemplating on the desired object, he let out a deep sigh. Instantaneously, Madalsa emerged from his middlehood. Ashwatar did not reveal this fact to anybody and made adequate arrangements so that she could live in secrecy. Thereafter one day, he instructed his sons to bring their friend Ritudhwaj to the palace. Both the sons once again joined the company of Ritudhwaj. One day while playing, they insisted him to visit their palace. The prince gladly accompanied them. In Patal Loka, he was amazed to see his Brahman friends getting transformed into serpents. They took Ritudhwaj through the streets and lanes of their kingdom. Ultimately they reached the palace of Ashwatar. Introducing Ritudhwaj, the serpent princess said, "O father, this is our brave friend, Ritudhwaj." Ritudhwaj greeted Ashwatar respectfully and received his blessings. Ashwatar said to him, "Long live, O prince. My sons always sing praise of your divine virtues. I request you to stay with us for a few months and enjoy the pleasures of Patal Loka." Ritudhwaj reunites with Madalsa. Ritudhwaj stayed in the palace of Ashwatar. Nagraj did his best to keep Ritudhwaj happy and forget the sorrow of his wife's separation. During his stay, Ashwatar tried many times to coax Ritudhwaj into revealing his hurtiest desire. But every time Ritudhwaj intelligently avoided the topic. Once, King Ashwatar, in Ritudhwaj's presence, asked his sons what should be done to please him. They informed the king that nothing less than Madalsa would please the prince most and that the prince was eager to see his deceased wife once more. Prince Ritudhwaj also said shyly that he would be greatly obliged if Nagraj could help him to have a sight of his deceased wife. Ashwatar said, "O son, if you wish to see the illusion, come on, have a sight of your deceased wife." Saying this, Nagraj called Madalsa, who was staying secretly in his palace, and asked Ritudhwaj, "Take a good look, O son, if she is your wife." Seeing his wife before him, the prince fainted. When he regained his consciousness, he stepped forward to touch her, but Ashwatar stopped him, cautioning that she was not real but illusionary and would vanish as soon as he touched her. Hearing this, Ritudhwaj once again lost his consciousness. When he regained his consciousness, he uttered nothing but, "She's mine. She's mine." Seeing the pitiable condition of the prince, Nagraj revealed the whole story of Madalsa's resurrection. Ritudhwaj became extremely joyous after reuniting with his wife. Then he contemplated on his divine horse, as a result of which, it appeared within a moment. Riding the horse, Prince Ritudhwaj returned to his kingdom with his wife Madalsa. Birth of Madalsa's sons. After returning to his father's kingdom, Ritudhwaj narrated the whole incident to his parents of how he regained Madalsa. Then they began to live happily. After many years, King Shatrujit crowned Ritudhwaj as the king. After King Ritudhwaj's accession to the throne, Madalsa gave birth to her first son. Ritudhwaj named the child as Vikrant. After some time, Madalsa gave birth to her second son whom Ritudhwaj named as Sabahu. Subsequently, their third son was born and named Shatrumradan. After the naming ceremony of the third son, Madalsa could not help laughing, as she was very amused by such a name given to her son. The metaphysical knowledge, which Madalsa gave to her three sons, had helped them to become ascetics. When their fourth son was born, the king sought her approval on the name being given to him. This made the queen laugh. The king asked her to name the child. Madalsa named this child as Alaka. Hearing the name, the king ridiculed its relevance. Madalsa said that the names have significance only for worldly matters. She also reminded the king about the futility of the names given to their previous children. As Madalsa began to preach her fourth son about the metaphysics, the king stopped her by saying that she had already preached all the three sons on the path of renunciation. He requested her to spare the fourth child so that he could grow up and become the king one day. Madalsa then blessed her son. "You are blessed, my son, because you will rule the earth without obstacles. Now cultivate in your heart the desire to do well to others. Never cast your eyes on women other than your wife. Always contemplate on Murari to destroy the evil thoughts in your heart." Preachings of Madalsa used to preach the little prince while played. When Alaka attained boyhood, he asked, "O mother, what should I do in order to mastery over physical and metaphysical matters? How can I serve my subjects in the best possible way?" Madalsa said, "Looking after the welfare of the subjects religiously is the supreme duty of a king. He should always be alert against the activities of his enemies. With the help of spies, the king should keep a watch on the activities of his ministers so that he could not make friends with the enemies. It is unwise for the king to trust everybody, but under certain circumstances, he may trust even his enemies. A king must control his lust, but at the same time, he should make efforts to increase the boundaries of his kingdom. Surrendering to sensual comfort is like death for a king. A king should appear as all-pervasive and omnipresent. Fostering the subjects with total righteousness enhances the wisdom of the king. Duties of people belonging to various ashramas. Varn Ashrama Dharma. Alaka says, "Tell me about the duties of the different classes and stages of life." Madalsa says, "Donation, study and yajna. These three are the religion of a Brahman. Performing yajna for others, teaching and accepting donation are the three vocations of Brahman. Donation, study and yajna are also the religious duties of Kshatriyas. Protection of land and using weapons are vocation for Kshatriyas. Religious duties of a Vaishya are also same like that of the Brahmins, such as donation, study and yajna. For a living, Vaishya may take up animal rearing, agriculture and trade as profession. Serving all these three above mentioned castes as well as making donations and performing yajna are the religious duties of a Shudra. Tilling the earth, serving Brahmans, feeding animals, selling and purchasing items are professions of a Shudra. A person belonging to Dvij class may relatively enjoy freedom until his sacred thread ceremony has not been performed. After the sacred thread ceremony, he should come to stay at the home of his teacher and observe celibacy strictly while studying scriptures. There he is expected to serve the Guru sincerely. At the completion of education, he should pay dakshina to his Guru. He may get married and start the second stage of his life, that is Grihastha Ashrama. He should then subsequently opt for Vanprastha and Sannyas respectively. After the completion of education and paying all the dues, the disciple is ready to start second stage of his life, that is Grihastha Ashrama. For this he should first find a suitable girl from his caste and get married. Grihastha Ashrama is considered as the best stage of life. It is in itself a complete yajna. As a householder, he is expected to foster those who are dependent on him. During this stage of his life, he should earn his livelihood by occupations ascribed for his caste. He should please the deities by performing yajnas, his ancestors by making oblations, Prajapatis by producing children, specters by offering sacrifices of cereals, and society by showering love. Even the ascetic and celibates depend on married people for their daily bread. Hence married life or Grihastha Ashrama is stated to be superior among all the ashramas. A Grihastha must welcome and treat even his unexpected guests with great warmth. A householder who fails to satisfy his guest never succeeds in religious matters. The yajnas that are offered in such households go futile. Hence it is not proper for the householder to show ego and abuse a guest, otherwise he will have to expiate for it later. When the children of the householder grow up and his body becomes senile, he should go to the forest after relinquishing the world. There, he should pass his time by indulging himself in austerities and religious activities. This stage is known as Vanprastha Ashrama and is most necessary for the sanctification of his soul. This stage is followed by Sannyas Ashrama, the stage which requires complete renunciation, celibacy, control of senses and anger, etc. The virtues like truthfulness, sanctity, non-violence, tolerance, forgiveness, kindness, generosity and contentment are the religious merits applicable to all the ashramas equally. Those who abide by their religion stay in the abode of Brahma till the reign of 14 Indras. The king punishes those who violate this religious code. If the king doesn't punish them, he is himself destroyed. Hence a king must first of all abide by the duties as prescribed for different ashramas in his life, and only then he has the right to punish those people who violate these dictates. Duties of a Grihastha, householder. Alaka says what are the duties of a married man by discharging which he becomes free from all kinds of bondage and attains salvation. Kindly tell me about these things. Madalsa says, O son, those people who discharge their duties as a householder by fostering all the living beings attain to the heaven automatically. All the living creatures of the world, including the deities and the dead ancestors, are dependent on their nurturing on the householder. They always look at the face of the married man for their living. In fact, Grihastha Ashrama can be compared to a cow that fosters others with her milk. All the four Vedas are present in this cow, that is Grihastha Ashrama. Entire universe is reflected in this ashrama. Daily after the bath in the morning, a Grihastha must perform oblations to the deities, to the sages, Prajapati and ancestors by offering water to them. Then he should perform a yajna and offer cereals in the sacrificial fire. There are certain places in the house, which are reserved for specific deities and where offerings are made to them. Sacrifice to Brahma should be offered in the central part of the home, to Vishwadeva in the eastern side of the home, to Dhanvantari in the northern side, to Indra again in the eastern side, to Yam in the southern side, to Varuna in the western side, and to Soma in the northern side of the home. At the threshold of the house, sacrifice should be offered to Dhata and Vidhata. One must sit facing the south while offering sacrifice to his dead ancestors. For the dogs and birds, sacrifices should be given on the ground in the morning and evening. At the arrival of a guest, a grihastha must worship him by offering water, cereals, flowers etc. as per his financial condition. If possible, a grihastha should feed one or more Brahmans in order to pacify his ancestors. He should give alms to a beggar and a celibate. Without giving alms, a grihastha must not proceed to dine. He should also feed starving and diseased people first. Such kind of living definitely benefits a grihastha. Shraddha and its rituals. Regular and casual duties. Madalsa says, O son, a grihastha has three kinds of duties: regular, casual and a combination of both. Rituals, which are connected with oblations and carried out daily, are called regular duties. Rituals and consecrations performed at the birth of a child are called casual duties. Yearly performance of Shraddha for the dead ancestors is a combination of regular and casual duties. Now listen about the casual duties. At the time of a child's birth, different kinds of rituals and consecrations are carried out in the household. During the time of marriage ceremony also, many more rituals are carried out. At the time of marriage, however, performance of the Shraddha named Nandimukh is a must. During the Shraddha, the host should sit facing the north or the east and offer a loaf made of barley flour and yogurt. Then he should circumambulate around two Brahmans and worship them. Rituals and Shraddha carried out in the household after the occurrence of any death in the household comes under the category of casual duties. During the Shraddha period, all kinds of sacred activities are forbidden. Only the use of kush grass is permitted. Donation of pind, comprising of barley flour, yogurt, honey etc. is made for only one time to pacify the soul of the dead person. Then oblation of water with sesame seeds should be offered in the name of the dead person. This ritual should continue for a year, once every month. After a year, Shraddha is organized in which 1, 3 or 5 Brahmans are fed. Thereafter, every year, during the darker phase of Ashwin month, a Shraddha should be carried out for the dead ancestors. This ritual is a combination of regular and casual duties. Sages have made provision for appeasement of dead ancestors up to the last 7 generations. Cereals, which the people offer in the name of their dead ancestors, pacify those souls who stay in Pishak Yoni. Water falling on the earth at the time of wringing the clothes after one's bath pacifies those souls who have taken the form of vegetation after their death. Water falling during the bath satisfies those souls who have attained the status of deities. Cereals that fall during the lifting of pind satisfy those souls who are in lower life forms. The cereals that scatter here and there and swept aside satisfy souls of those people who had died in their childhood before the accomplishment of any consecration. The waste water falling down while Brahman washes his hands after dining and pacifies all the other souls. Every month, during the waning phase of the moon or on the day of Amvasya, Shraddha should be carried out. Besides it, 8th day of darker phase in the month of Poish is also good for carrying out Shraddha. If a virtuous Brahman is available, time of solar and lunar eclipses is also good for Shraddha. The time when the sun crosses the equator during its northward and southward journey is also good for Shraddha. Apart from these above mentioned situations, one can also organize Shraddha in the following circumstances: at the time of great calamity, availability of items suitable for Shraddha, after a nightmare, during the period of birth nakshatra and during the period of unfavorable stars etc. On the first day of the Shraddha, a virtuous Brahman should be invited while the host must observe total restraint. It is said that such a man, who indulges in sexual intercourse on the same day after carrying out Shraddha or eating food of Shraddha, causes his dead ancestors to sleep in semen for 1 month. Ancestors of such a man, who performs Shraddha immediately after having a sexual intercourse, drink urine and semen for 1 month. Hence a virtuous Brahman, whom the host is intending to feed, should be informed about the Shraddha 1 day earlier in advance. If a Brahman is not available, a true celibate can be fed on the day of Shraddha. After the Brahman has carried out all the necessary rituals, Havan, oblation etc., he must be formally insisted to dine. All kinds of edible items that a Brahman may wish to eat should be offered. While reciting the Rakshodhan mantra, grains of sesame and mustard should be scattered on the ground. After the Brahman has dined, he should be offered with water to wash his hands and some cereals that should be scattered on the ground with his permission. Then sitting on the seat of kush grass, the host should offer a pind made of sesame seeds, barley flour, sugar, ghee etc. An oblation of water should follow it. At the end, the Brahman should be seen off with proper dakshina. Only then the host is free to dine himself along with other invited guests and family members. Do's and don'ts during a Shraddha. Madalsa says, O son, I am now narrating about the do's and don'ts to be followed during Shraddha. Many kinds of edible items can be offered in the Shraddha. These include cereals like barley, wheat, rice, millet, corn, etc., fish, flesh of deer, rabbit, bird, wild boar, goat and nilgai, antelope. All these kinds of items are capable of pacifying the soul of dead ancestors for different period of time depending on the nature of offerings being made. Likewise, cereals offered in sacred fire cause satisfaction for 1 month. Fish causes satisfaction for 2 months. Flesh of deer causes satisfaction for 3 months. Flesh of rabbit causes satisfaction for 4 months. Flesh of bird causes satisfaction for 5 months. Flesh of wild boar causes satisfaction for 6 months. Flesh of goat causes satisfaction for 7 months. Flesh of different types of deer and antelope causes satisfaction for 8, 9 and 10 months respectively. Food items made of cow's milk and ghee and kheer cause satisfaction to the dead ancestors for 1 year. Different varieties of rice, barley, millet, wheat, sesame, moong dal, mustard etc. are extremely satisfying food for the ancestors. Different types of pulses and corn can also be offered. Use of garlic, carrot, onion, radish, refined salt, red gum, gourd etc. is prohibited. Water that is stinking, frothy, stale or otherwise incapable of quenching a cow's thirst should also be discarded. Milk of doe, camel, goat, buffalo and other one-hoof animals, yak and such a cow that was milked for the past 10 days is also forbidden for use in Shraddha. Soil that is infested with insects, dry, baked with fire, stinking or collected from an unholy place should not be used. Similarly, such people who are violent, wretched, killers of Brahmins, impotent or have fiendish characters should not be involved in the Shraddha. Cocks and pigs should also be kept away from the place of Shraddha. This is the reason why sesame seeds are scattered at the site of Shraddha secretly. The host must not see a woman in menses. It is also not necessary to feed a host of Brahmins. Instead, it is sufficient to feed only one meritorious Brahman with complete devotion and respect. It is enough to appease the dead ancestors. Appeasement of ancestors automatically lead to appeasement of the deities, planets, nakshatras and all whose blessings can transform the living condition of the person. Auspicious days and months. Madalsa says Shraddha can be performed on any day during the dark lunar phase in the Hindu month of Ashwin, i.e. from the first day to the Amvasya. Performing of Shraddha on any of these days brings the following benefits. Performing Shraddha on the first day or Pratipda brings monetary gain. Shraddha performed on the second day brings prosperity. Shraddha performed on the third day blesses the performer with a boon. Performing Shraddha on the fourth day leads to the destruction of enemies. Performing Shraddha on the fifth day gives benefit from a woman. Shraddha performed on the sixth day helps a man to acquire respect in the society. Shraddha performed on the seventh day makes the performer an able leader. Shraddha performed on the eighth day enhances the intelligence. Shraddha performed on the ninth day brings the company of the attractive women. Shraddha performed on the 10th day leads to the fulfillment of all the desires. Performing Shraddha on the 11th day helps him to attain the knowledge of Vedas. Shraddha performed on the 12th day makes the performer victorious. Shraddha performed on the 13th day leads to long life and luxuries. Shraddha performed on the 14th day and Amvasya lead to the fulfillment of all the desires. Fruits of Shraddha performed during different nakshatras. Nakshatra result Kritika heaven aboard Rohini progeny Mrigshira radiance Ardra bravery Puna Vasu land Pushya health Ashlesha sons Maga family help. Purva Phalguni fortune Uttara Phalguni virtues Hasta greatness Chitra beauty personality Swati trade Vishaka progeny desires Anuradha respect Jyesh dominance Mula disease free Purvasarha popularity Uktasaha no sorrows Shravana heaven aboard Dhanishta wealth Abhijit Vedas medicine Shatvisha animal wealth Purvabhadrapa knowledge cattle Uttarabhadrapa precious metals Revati horses Ashwini increase in life Bharni prosperity. Forbidden and permitted items Madalsa says, O son. Now, I will tell you the do's and don'ts for healthy living. Stale cereals, oil and fats stored over a prolonged period of time, items prepared from wheat and barley and food items which is not prepared from pure ghee or milk should not be consumed. Flesh of turtle, porcupine etc. is worth eating whereas flesh of village pigs and cocks should not be consumed. Brahman can eat flesh offered to him in a shraddha. Things like conch, stone, gold, pearl etc. are purified simply by washing in water. Cereals either touched or washed by unwarranted people is not fit for any purpose. Flesh of animals killed by Chandala or killed for the purpose of oblation in Shraddha is also considered pure. Seat, bed, vehicle, boat, grass, rays of the sun and moon and air are naturally pure things. Touch by a woman who is in her menses, dog, jackal, a mother who has recently given birth to a child, a Chandala, carriers of the briar etc. is defiling in nature. A person however can become pure once again by taking bath if touched by any of these people and animals. One should not neglect the appearance of blood and cough. Excretions and water collected after washing the feet should be thrown out of the home at once. Getting touched by the people who criticize deities, ancestors, yagya, mantra etc. is also defiling. Sighting of the sun however purifies the defiled person. Duties of the woman, different male and female deities dwell at the threshold of the home. Hence this portion of the home should be worshipped properly every day. At dawn, the threshold should not be left vacant or it may have adverse effect on one's lineage. The whole area inside the home should be plastered with cow dung daily or washed with pure water. All these activities should be carried out by the better half of the householder. Those women who prepare food during the last quarter of the night, suffer from infertility in future births. Those women, who do not sweep their home in the evening, remain unmarried and are bereft of wealth in future births. Such women also lose their wealth, lifespan and reputation. Kicking the following things like broom, hearth and mortar etc. or touching them with feet also leads to the loss of progeny and wealth. The householder should not use broken seat, board and black blanket for sitting purpose. He should not comb his hair while facing south. Those who do not dine, perform havan or make donations at the appropriate time are no better than eunuchs. Those who shun these activities despite having wealth are worse than mice. Those who do not respect the deities, teachers, wife of the teacher, cow, Brahman etc. are boycotted by the society. Naked are those who are devoid of Vedas, other religious scriptures and rituals. Such a house is really contemptible, which is boycotted by the Brahmins and where daily routines are not followed regularly. After birth or death in the family, a Brahman becomes purified in 10 days. During this period of 10 days, he should avoid all the religious activities. In similar conditions, a Kshatriya gets purified in 12 days after a birth or death in his family, a Vaishya in 15 days and a Shudra in 1 month. Dead body of a person should be cremated outside the boundaries of the village. His family members should offer oblation of water to pacify his soul on the 1st, 4th, 7th and 9th days after the cremation. Ashes should be collected from the 4th day. In case of deaths caused by a snake bite or poisoning, family members may get purified after a day. There is no impurity in case of the death of a child, an immigrant and the one who has renounced everything. Even their cremation is not carried out nor oblation of water is made. If one more death occurs in the family while the mourning period of the earlier death is still continuing, impurity of the second death lasts as long as that of the first one. Similar rules are applied to the impurity caused by the birth. Thus, abiding by these norms, the householder can easily attain the 4 objectives of life, that is dharma, artha, kama and moksha. King Alaka and his queries about yoga. King Alaka's ring and wisdom. After reaching youthhood, Prince Alaka got married. By that time, his father King Ritudhwaj had also grown old. Hence, before Grihastha, he crowned his son as the new king. At the time of crowning, Queen Madalsa presented him a ring and said, "O son, this ring contains a note which will teach you on how a king should administer the kingdom." Saying this, Madalsa blessed Alaka and left the palace with her husband Ritudhwaj to spend their lives in the forest. After his accession to the throne, King Alaka ruled justly. In due course of time, he got many sons. He followed the dictates of dharma, artha and kama while ruling his kingdom. In spite of enjoying all the luxuries, Alaka still could not experience bliss and felt as if he was missing something in his life. Very soon, Sabahu came to learn about the royal luxuries of his brother Alaka and got tempted to enjoy the same luxuries. To attain his objective, Sabahu took the help of the king of Kashi. The king of Kashi sent an envoy to Alaka with a message to give the kingdom to Sabahu, which Alaka refused. Instead, he sent a reply that the request must be made by Sabahu himself. "I will not give him my kingdom out of fear of war," said Alaka. But Sabahu did not pay heed and with the help of the king of Kashi, launched a massive attack on his kingdom and conquered it. Now Alaka's days of sorrow had begun. He then remembered the ring presented by his mother Madalsa. He opened the ring and found a letter in it. The letter said, "When you lose your everything, give up the company of your present advisors and join the company of learned sages. This message made Alaka to pine for the company of the learned sages. Very soon, he went to the refuge of Dattatreya and requested him to remove his miseries. Dattatreya assured him of removing his miseries at once, but before doing that, he wanted to know the reasons for his miseries. Alaka said, "I do not long for pleasures, but my elder brother wants to grab my kingdom." Dattatreya preaches Alaka. Alaka says, "O Lord, with the arising of disenchantment in my heart, I have no miseries now. Only those people feel drowned in the ocean of miseries who are attached to worldly things. A man feels all kinds of sorrows due to his attachments towards the luxuries in which his mind indulges. Now neither sorrow nor joy can affect me." Dattatreya says, "O king, whatever you said is correct. Attachment is the cause of both sorrow and happiness. It is because of the knowledge I gave to you that the mist of attachment has disappeared from your heart. A small sprout of ego ultimately develops into a huge tree of ignorance. Affection is the trunk of this tree. Home and family are the branches, and wife and children are the leaves of this tree. Wealth and cereals are the flowers, and happiness and sorrow are the fruits of this tree. Relation that emerges out of affection is the canopy of this tree. This tree grows day by day and obscures the path of liberation. This tree is full of desires, and those who sit under the lee of this tree can never attain salvation. Hence, felling of this tree is of foremost importance for a person desirous of attaining Brahmatva." Yogyai Dattatreya says, "O king, with the attainment of knowledge, people come to conjugate with the Supreme Almighty, and which results into dispersion of their ignorance. To attain moksha, it is necessary for a man to shun attachment first of all. Only after that, he will become free from sorrows. When he becomes free from sorrow, he unites with the Supreme Almighty. This phenomenon is known as yoga. Unification with the Supreme Almighty enables a man to attain knowledge and finally moksha, salvation. It is therefore essential for all those seeking salvation that first of all they should renounce affection and attachment for the worldly objects, including their near and dear ones. Knowledge and renunciation are nothing but two sides of the same coin, and one is necessary to give rise to the other. Home is nothing but the place for staying. Food is nothing but the energy required sustaining our body, and knowledge is nothing but an aid to attain salvation. Anything that caused obstacles in the way of salvation is ignorance. A living being is bound to receive the fruits of action no matter whether they are good or bad. Hence one should carry out his duties without bothering for the results. With the attenuation of the results of the action performed in the previous births, a living being becomes free from the cycles of life and death. With the attainment of yoga, yogis take refuge in none other than Brahma. But the path of attaining yoga is indeed difficult, if not impossible. One has to conquer his soul first of all, because the soul itself is regarded as invincible. Control of physical impurities with the help of pranayam, sins by determination, lust by self-restraints, and contemplation on God are the ways to conquer the soul. Perfection in yoga and daily routine. Dattatreya says, during the process of conquering the soul, different kinds of allurements begins to divert the mind of the yogis. It is imperative for the yogi to keep his mind busy by observing fast, worshipping and contemplating in God. It is the duty of the yogi to always contemplate on God, only then he can seek solace in Him. Thus, after controlling his senses, a yogi ought to eat and sleep less, attain unification with the Supreme Being. O King, A yogi unifies with Brahma once his physical and mental faults are removed. Then, he never separates from the Supreme Being. Alaka says, O Lord, now kindly narrate about the daily routine a yogi should abide by in order to preserve his piousness. Dattatreya says, O King, respect and insult are the two reasons for love and hatred. Yogis attain perfection by understanding insult as respect and vice versa. A yogi should therefore never attend social functions like shraddha, marriage ceremonies or other festivities. He should not accept the hospitality of others and should shun unnecessary journeys. A yogi should seek alms only after the householder and his family has dined. A yogi should accept alms only from those households whose inmates are gentle, religious and free from blemishes and should accept things like whey, milk, fruits, edible roots, gram flour etc. Before going to dine, a yogi should offer his food to the deities reciting he following mantras prananyaya swaha apanya swaha samne swaha udne swaha vyane swaha. After reciting these mantras one by one and offering food to the deities who are present in his body as different forms of air, the yogi may now proceed to dine. Control of senses and greed, celibacy, renunciation and non-violence are the 5 resolutions of a yogi. Control of anger, service to the Guru, sanctity, eating less and studying Vedas regularly are the 5 norms for a yogi. A yogi must practice meditation at a desolate place, forest, cave or peak of a mountain. A true celibate has full control over his speech, mind and action. Iron and gold have equal worth in his eye, he loves no one and hates no one. Dattatreya says those yogis who abide by their resolution are never degraded from their supreme position. Such yogis always recite Om while contemplating on the eternal God. A, U, and M. These 3 syllables constitute the body Om or Aum. These 3 syllables represent the virtues, gunas, of sattva, tamas and rajas respectively. Thus, by contemplating on God and reciting a yogi ultimately achieves unification with that eternal spirit. But there are still some disastrous traps that a yogi should guard himself against, otherwise his entire penance might turn futile at the time of death. Hence every yogi must be aware of these disastrous traps. Description of disastrous traps. Dattatreya says a person who is unable to see the path of the deities, or the heavenly bodies like Dhruva, Shukra, Venus, Soma, Moon, or his own shadow or goddess Arundhati, must understand that his death is near. For those people to whom the sun appears without radiance but fire appears as the sun, die within 11 months. Sighting of gold and silver in urine or stools signifies death within 10 months. Those who see ghosts, Gandharvas and gold tree in the dreams live for 9 months only. Those who become fat or thin suddenly live for 8 months more. Those yogis whose heels appear cracked while walking on sand or mud die within 7 months. Getting perched on the body by volatile birds like vulture, pigeon, owl, crow etc. indicates that the concerned person will live for only 6 months. Those who see their shadow in opposite direction live for 4 or 5 months more only. Those who sight lightning without clouds or rainbow during the night time, in their dream live for 2 or 3 months more. Those who cannot see their reflection in ghee, oil, water and mirror die within a month. A person whose body smells like a cadaver die within 15 days. Those whose hands and feet remain dry even after taking bath and dry even after taking light refreshments live only for 10 days. Those who sight hair, cinders, ash, snakes and dried rivers in the dream, die on the 11th day. Those who feel hungry even after eating to their fill also die soon, O king. There are many more disastrous symptoms that indicate death. A yogi must always be alert regarding these signs. Whenever a yogi perceives the appearance of all or some of these disastrous symptoms, he must at once take to yoga to minimize the effects. Brahmajian a yogi experiences extreme joy when he meditates while doing yoga. Only then can he experience Brahma. Physical body is ephemeral, hence a true yogi does not mourn over the loss of physical body. Hence, a yogi must train his mind in yoga ignoring sorrow or affection. This is indeed a difficult task to achieve. Alaka says, O Brahman, by your blessings, my ignorance has ended. Now I will do everything so that ignorance does not grip me once again. Then taking Dattatreya's permission, Alaka went back to the king of Kashi and said, O king, you have a desire for the kingdom, so take this kingdom and enjoy its luxuries yourself or give it to Sabahu. The king of Kashi asked Alaka as to why he was renouncing the kingdom without fighting a war. He also tried to instigate Alaka by saying that his conduct did not suit the Kshatriyas. Alaka said, only Brahma is truth, all the other things are false. Now controlling my senses, I will attain perfection in yoga. Alaka masters yoga and penance of Jada, and his father words of Alaka pleased the king of Kashi. Even Sabahu got up gladly and after embracing Alaka said to the king of Kashi, O king, I had taken your refuge to win the kingdom. Now, I have got it without fighting a war and without a drop of blood being shed. But, I am leaving now, renouncing everything. The king of Kashi said, Sabahu, why had you taken refuge in me? What have you received now? Sabahu said, O king, my younger brother Alaka had been so far indulging in luxuries despite having metaphysical knowledge. He was in fact experiencing miseries in his household. When the miseries cross all limits, only then renunciation arises in the mind, as is the case with Alaka. That was why I had taken your refuge. My job is finished now. So I am leaving to attain perfection in yoga. O king, I regard those people who ignore their near and dear ones in their miseries as heartless. Such people are degraded from their position of dharma, artha, kama and moksha and are criticized everywhere. The king of Kashi said, O Sabahu, you have saved your brother Alaka. Now kindly save me also. Sabahu said, attainment of dharma, artha, kama and moksha are the four major objectives for the attainment of which humans have been created. You have already attained dharma, artha and kama. Only moksha remains to be attained now. It is mine, it is me, etc. are expressions of ego. Guarding the self from these thoughts is the true knowledge. A man must know what is to be known, who is to know, and who is he. A knowledge of these automatically leads to the knowledge of all. Saying these words, Sabahu left the palace. The king of Kashi too returned to his kingdom. Alaka crowned his elder son as the new king and he began to practice yoga in a forest. After many years of rigorous practice, Alaka attained salvation and his abode in Brahma Loka. The Brahman's son said, O father, now you too must take refuge in yoga in order to attain Brahma. I too will try to attain salvation. The birds say, O Brahman. Thus the father and son began their penance and attained salvation. The universe and Lord Brahma's manifestation, the origin of the universe. Gemini thanked the birds for enlightening him with self-knowledge. But he was still not satisfied. There were many questions to which he had no answers. He asked the birds, how did this universe come into being? What will happen to it during the time of final annihilation? How did the deities, the sages, the ancestors and the living creatures originate? How did the Manvantaras arrive? I am anxious to know about all these things. The birds replied, O Gemini, we salute the same Jagannath who creates in the form of Lord Brahma, nurtures the world as Lord Vishnu and ultimately annihilates the world as Lord Shiva in his most terrifying form. We will now reveal the knowledge which was once narrated by sage Markandeya. The birds then narrated the following tale as was originally told by sage Markandeya. In the beginning of creation, as soon as Lord Brahma manifested himself, all the 4 Vedas and 18 Puranas came out from his 4 mouths. Lord Brahma then created the Saptarishis merely by wishing, who took all the Vedas and Puranas in their possession. Later on, sage Chyavan got the Puranas from one of the Saptarishis, sage Bhrigu, and read out its contents to the assembled sages. The sages then retold the Puranas to Daksha. Daksha narrated the contents of the Puranas to me, Markandeya. The virtues of listening to Puranas are capable of destroying all sins of a man. Now I am going to reveal to you that secret knowledge of Purana as was told to me by Daksha. Brahma, the cause and effect of everything, pervades the universe even after the final annihilation. All the 3 gunas are present in him. When the time is appropriate for commencing the process of creation, the whole atmosphere is covered by the great element, Mahatattva, which itself comprises of the 3 basic gunas sattva, pure, rajas, semi-pure, and tamas, dark. Ego manifests itself from the great element, Mahatattva. Even the ego remains covered by the great element. The ego then creates, Shabda Tanmatra, subtle forms of matter related with sound. The sky which symbolizes the Shabda, sound, is created from this very Shabda Tanmatra. The ego then covers the whole sky. After that Sparsh Tanmatra, subtle forms of matter related with touch, comes into being. Air, which signifies the quality of touch, then comes into being. After the creation of air, light is created without which the forms and appearance cannot be perceived. The deformity of life results into the creation of Rasa Matra. From this very Rasa Matra, water comes into being. The water is enveloped by the Roop Matra, subtle forms of appearance. The water then gets deformed and as a result Gandha Matra comes into being, from which the earth is created. All the worlds are established in this earth. First of all, the gunas enter into the atoms and create the 7 basic elements which are a must for procreation. The 7 basic elements then establish themselves in Purusha and Prakriti. The union of Purusha and Prakriti results into the creation of egg. This egg keeps expanding in its size while being in water. Lord Brahma, who is also known as Kshetragya and who is also the creator of all the souls, dwells in that egg. The same Brahma pervades all the 3 worlds. All the creatures of the world, including the deities, demons and human beings along with islands, mountains, oceans, air and sky etc. are present inside the egg. The Mother Nature along with the great element covers this egg. This way, the 7 natural coverings envelop the egg. Beyond the Prakriti, nature, is established the Purusha, Almighty. Now I am going to reveal the identity of Brahma to you. Just as drops of water fall down from the body of a wet man immersed in water, in the same way, Lord Brahma too discards of the egg in the end. The nature is nothing else but Kshetra, space, area, and Brahma is also known as Kshetragya. This way, The whole creation came into being just like lightning. Lord Brahma's lifespan crossed. UK said, "Tell me, O Lord, how were the living beings created as the period of final annihilation was approaching its end?" Markandeya replied, "When the nature establishes herself in the soul of the Purusha, Supreme Almighty, all the created matter gets annihilated. Prakriti and Purusha are established in the mode of parallelism. During that period, Sattva and Tamas become neutrally balanced. Even the quality of Rajas establishes itself within the qualities of Sattva and Tamas. The lifespan of Brahma consists of Dviparardha. The day and night of Brahma are of equal duration. Brahma is the origin of this universe. He is the inconceivable soul, the Supreme Lord and the cause of all the events. He is beyond the reach of activities. He enters into Prakriti and Purusha excites both of them to get unified. When Prakriti gets excited, the Supreme Lord manifests himself in the egg as Brahma. He then commences his creation. The same Brahma attains the form of Vishnu due to the effect of his Sattva Guna and nurtures the whole creation. Under the influence of Tamas Guna, he attains the form of Rudra and finally annihilates the whole creation. He then goes into hibernation. This way, the same Almighty God in his three different forms of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh performs his duties of creation, nurturing and annihilation respectively. The lifespan of Brahma consists of 100 years. The division of time is as follows: 1 Kashta consists of 15 Nimshas. 1 Kala consists of 30 Kashtas, whereas 30 Kalas make 1 Muhurta. 1 day and night of this material world consists of 30 Muhurtas. 30 days and nights are equivalent to 1 month or 2 fortnights, Pakshs. 6 months make 1 Ayan. 2 Ayans make a year. A day and night of the deities are equivalent to 1 year of this material world. Similarly, 12,000 years of the deities make the 4 yugas. Satya Yuga consists of the 4,000 years of the deities. Treta Yuga consists of 3,000 years of the deities. Dwapar Yuga consists of 2,000 years of the deities, whereas Kali Yuga consists of 1,000 years of the deities. Similarly, Sandhya, evening, period of Satya Yuga consists of 400 years and Sandhyansh, part of evening, consists of the same period, that is 400 years. Thus the total number of years that Satya Yuga has come up to 4,000 plus 400 plus 400 is equal to 4,800 years. In the same way, the Sandhya and Sandhyansh of Treta Yuga consist of 300 years each. Thus, the total number of years in Treta Yuga comes up to 3,000 plus 300 plus 300 is equal to 3,600 years. Sandhya and Sandhyansh period of Dwapar Yuga is of 200 years each. Thus the total number of years in Dwapar Yuga comes up to 2,000 plus 200 plus 200 is equal to 2,400 years. Sandhya and Sandhyansh period of Kali Yuga are of 100 years each. Thus the total number of years in Kali Yuga comes up to 1,000 plus 100 plus 100 is equal to 1,200 years. A day of Brahma consists of 1,000 times of the 12,000 years of the deities. 14 Manus appear in succession during the whole day of Brahma. Each Manavanta comprises of a Manu and his progenies, Indra and the other deities, Saptarishis Ganas and Nripti Ganas, etc. A Manavanta consists of 71 Chaturyugas. On the basis of the years of this material world, a Manavanta consists of 30 crores 67 lakhs 20,000 years or 8 lakhs 52,000 years of the deities. A Brahma's day consists of 429,40,000 years of this world, or 1,19,28,000 years of the deities. The dissolution, which occurs at the end of the day of Brahma, is also known as casual dissolution. Namitic Pralaya. During the time of casual dissolution, all the residents of Ghor, Guva and Swarga Lokas temporarily go to Mahaloka. The residents of Mahaloka shift their base to Jana Loka. The entire universe is submerged in the ocean during the time of casual dissolution, and this is the time for Brahma to take rest, i.e. at night. Brahma starts his creation at the end of the night. This way, after the completion of 360 years of Brahma, his 1 year is complete. 100 such years of Brahma make 1 para, and 500 such years make 1 parada. 1 parada of Brahma has already passed, at the end of which Padram Mahaklapa occurred. The present period, which falls under the second parada, is also known as Vara Kalpa. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.